Good afternoon, Chuck Carstensen. A quick impromptu podcast live video is on what sellers and realtors could do with low offers, often called lowball offers, meaning you have an asking price on a listing and somebody comes in super low or lower than maybe the seller or realtor thinks. Um, there's obviously several options. Couldn't cover them all in what I'd like to be a 5-minute podcast, but going into the last few months of the market where the market was looking like it would downshift some, and it did, prices did drop a little, but as mentioned, more recent podcasts have really stabilized and came up a little bit because of the spring market lack of inventory. So there was a time going into the last few months and even now that buyers were thinking, hey, this is my chance. I can lowball, there's higher interest rates, and get those prices down to something more affordable. And unfortunately, in most circumstances, not much more affordable now. But sometimes buyers still try low ball offers in this market. And obviously, over our years of doing this, Michelle, Stacy, and I, we've been on the receiving end as listing agents of low offers and make low offers. When it comes to buyers, I always tell them, like, we're happy to make any offer. Certainly, if it makes 0 cents, we'd probably explain that. If it makes a little bit of sense to do it, we'd explain that and still obviously make the offer if the buyer wants to. And then sometimes they're not super explicable why you make a low offer when the home's likely going to sell for that or higher. And those are times we still can make a low offer, but let them know what's going to work and not work. So for the rest of this video, though, I want to talk, the rest of this podcast, this is recording a video on YouTube. It's on Facebook, Real Life Impact Podcast. We'll share it out a few times in our other social media sources. Reminder, when you're watching these live, you can always comment below or in the comment section or reach out with any comments or real estate questions. So what can you do with lowball offers? Well, the simple explanation is you can obviously reject them and say, go away. A lot of times that's what happens. Seller and or the realtor get offended, basically. Like, I hear this, I don't want to insult them with my lowball offer, but you probably did insult them if it's really low. And often it ends up in a rejection. We're not going to work with you. Go away. Not that it's said that way. And you could counter offer the offer. Now, when you write a low ball offer, or I could just say low offer, but if it's super low, the low ball offer, you could still, as a seller or realtor, counter that offer. But oftentimes, if you write too low of an offer, your counter is going to be worse. They're going to counter at the price or maybe a little bit below. They're just not going to really want to work with you. They want to work with somebody as a seller that looks like they're in the ballpark. So yes, you could counter offer it. But you're probably not going to get as great as counter offer. I had one recently where I was on the end of writing an offer for a buyer that was a low offer, lower than the seller's asking price. I felt in that case, and the buyers felt it's justified, we did feel it was way overpriced. There is and are and will be listings that are overpriced, and you probably have to lowball the price because they're overpriced. Not all of them are, and many of them aren't, most of them aren't, but we thought we'd try lower than where we thought and see if there would be a counter offer. There wasn't, but they didn't really reject us either. So one of the possibilities was, we're just going to leave it hanging out there. You might be like, why would a seller or a realtor leave it hanging out there? Well, then they could say to the next person, hey, we got some interest. We got an offer out there. And maybe the next buyer would make a better offer. So one of the possibilities after the rejection, the counter offer is just kind of hang on to it and leave it hang. And certainly as a buyer, then you can withdraw your offer. So then I said there's many, many possibilities. And some of them go with the last one. You can leave it hang out there for a little bit. And then you could drop the price, still leave it hang out there. And then you could go back and re-offer to the buyer. Like, okay, here's where we're at now. That's one of an offspring of those last couple options that you could do. You could do it based on the situation. And really, that's what I tell everybody, whether we're working with a buyer or seller. We handle it based on the circumstance, based on the situation. There's no one way to handle it. Those are some of the options. And then it's based on, if you're a seller, a listing, what kind of feedback, what kind of traffic you're getting, what you do, how long you've been on the market based on that. So those are a few examples of what you can do as a seller or realtor if you get a low offer. And the quick summary is you can reject it, counteroffer it, hold on to it, and then maybe at a certain point go back to the buyer if they're still out there. Chuck Carstensen, Remax Results. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We're doing a lot more on social media, so check into all of our social media channels, personal pages and business pages, and let's connect sometime soon. Thanks a lot. Thanks for watching.